All right, episode 18, round 2 or 3. The third time is a charm. We're going to be doing our spirit fingers to make sure Dr. O
Nice.
is not frozen.
Woo!
We did it.
Not frozen.
We did it. We did it. So we've been troubleshooting for like the last, call it half hour, but we worked it out. You're on your phone now. We got,
Yeah.
good little background action. I'm assuming
Yeah.
you're working from home. Is that what's going on?
That's it. That's it.
Cool.
Major stuff happens in this room.
Yep. You're helping
Combined.
a lot of
Yes.
people. They call you the teen doc. My
Yeah.
podcast is 18 years old now, but I guess
Nice.
still a teen. So I'm going to get some
Technically,
good
yes.
advice from you. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
But first and foremost, just a quick intro of who you are and what you do. And then we'll just hop right in from there. But yeah, thank you for being on Robby's World, episode 18.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for asking me. Thank you. And I do remember meeting you a couple years ago, so it's really nice
Oh
to
yeah, I
see
said
you
that on the other
again.
intro. We met a couple years ago, and you just blew
That's
my
right.
mind. You were just like,
Thank
da
you.
da da da. Does that make sense? And I was like, hell yeah. It turns out when you get to the root of a problem,
Yeah,
you know you're worth it. Then
that's
you take your
it.
medicine.
That's exactly right.
That's
And
the
so
interview. Okay,
that's it.
but it's
And
so true.
yes. And I feel like what happened was that, because they have really trained us to do medicine in a way that is paternalistic, we haven't really focused on how to motivate teens to find their internal motivation, right?
Mm-hmm.
We
Yes,
motivate through fear instead of motivating through by inspiring, right? And
yeah,
so I feel like the information is not mine to hoard. And so oftentimes what I'm doing is implanting that information inside teens so that they now have a better understanding and it allows them to make different choices.
that's
And and
awesome.
I and I just felt like that information works in more than a medical context. So even though I'm medically trained, you can imagine how I apply that to a bunch of things. And so it allows teens to accomplish a bunch of different things, and which makes
Definitely.
it all the more exciting, you
When you
know?
say they, are you talking about like the powers of B or Kaiser? Where do you work or what do you do? You skipped the
Yeah,
intro. You're a
so
Dr. O, but what does that mean? You're not
that's
like
right.
Dr.
That's
Oz.
right.
You're
That's
like a
right.
real doctor.
I'm really not like Dr. Oz
You're
at
not gonna
all,
talk about Tiger
actually.
King or any like
No,
fat shaming or like
no.
whatever else
Uh,
he does now after the Jerry Springer Judge Jerry.
that's That's it. That is true. I come by this by way of medicine. So I initially wanted to be a pediatrician and then was inspired by a photo that I saw actually on a billboard while I was driving. And I saw that on the billboard were babies and they were trying to get people to donate for, feed children in poverty and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it occurred to me as I was waiting at the stoplight that they would never use teens to garner sympathy, empathy, so that people would donate, right?
Interesting.
And I went, you know what? They need a better publicist.
Yeah,
And
a lot of stuff in that industry like need communications and development budgets because that's what I specialize in. It's just like
that's
how did this billboard get approved or like why are we
correct.
stereotyping teens as these like
That's
I'm
it.
like the millennial. It's like he's so lazy. It's like my therapist told me I do more than half of his patients in a month, but that
That's
could just
it.
be the brain
Correct.
ticking at a different level. So what
That's
Kaiser
right.
do you work at? Are you up by the movie theater or are you
Yes,
psychiatric or what is it?
that's it. So I'm at the Daily City and I do a lot of stuff there. But then the big thing where people end up meeting me is through my private practice, and that's working with families and
Okay, so you
teens.
could do
And
both. It's allowed.
I do. I tiptoe and I dance and I shuffle, just because they're two different halves of my brain. So yeah, it
Yeah.
works that way.
What is what's the biggest difference? What's the difference in the hats for the private versus
Yeah. So when I'm in the medical universe, then people are coming to me for medical issues. And then when I do the other part of what I do, it's really a biopsychosocial model. So I'm using a lot of the emotional stuff to get to the root of things. Now, it
That's
doesn't
awesome.
mean that I don't cross paths a lot, right? But it
Mhm.
does mean that I think that what the reason why I needed to do it outside of that context was because you need more time. It's really hard. It's like eliminating foreplay if you just do it the way the format works in medicine, right? You just
Did you
got to
say
like,
foreplay or no?
yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
a big analogy guy, but I didn't expect that one to come from you, so I
that's
appreciate it.
right.
My phone
That's
went
right.
off and I heard foreplay, but I'm not even like that guy. But I like
That's
analogies
right.
and food and sex analogies. I feel like everyone understands. So
That's exactly right. And so
yeah,
you got to ease into it, and you can't
yeah,
do that when you only have this amount of time. So
yeah.
taking it out of that context allows people to understand what I'm talking about. Allows the build up, and that really allows people to understand and connect even more. And that's what I really wanted, so you can make an impact. And I really want to make an impact. This wasn't about like a paycheck for me, you know.
It's never about the paycheck's like the bonus, but it's never about the pay. Like we don't do if you do things for money, especially in this field, you're gonna burn out. You're not gonna. What's the point? You know, you're just living to work and live. So do you prescribe meds, or you're the person to talk to about taking the meds, or what it like?
Yeah, because I'm MD, I get to prescribe meds too.
Okay, cool. We might have to have some more. I might have to actually have a conversation with you, because I'm working with a psychiatrist right now. And I got there. They want to put on some meds. I haven't picked them up yet, but I would love to figure it out. I don't know how vulnerable I'm about to get on this one, but it's supposed to be about you. So, okay. And then in your private practice, is this where you see more teens and adults? Like, can adults come see you, or is it mainly? Are you really focused on families and you refer out?
Yeah, so the way it works is people usually call me about a teen, right?
Okay.
And then what ends up happening is they learn
you flip it on them.
Yes. Yes, that is what happens.
You ask the parents who hurt them, and then you unpack that, right?
There you go. And that's how I become family. And so people are like, I don't know why they call you the teen doc. You're the family doc. But
that's why I feel like you could rebrand a little, or we're gonna have our own podcast just called like Who Hurt You, and people just call in.
That's it.
That's nuts.
It is. Who hurt you is exactly what happened.
I remember one thing you said this is 2019. It stuck with me. You talked about like it turns out when when the teen knows they're worth it and they're capable of love, and where they learned love and how their parents treated them and how their parents learned to parent. So I would love for you to just dive in a little bit about that, and then anything else you want to share in that realm and what affects parents and their kids' relations, just adults in general. Why are we walking around so angry, so sad, so mad, blaming?
Correct.
How come it's so hard to take criticism and all these vulnerable things? So lay it on me. You just go.
Got it. All right, I will. And so, one of the things that I always want teens to learn about is attachment theory. And so there's a lot of education in the way that I practice, because I feel like, that there's that quote by Maya Angelou: you do what you do until you know better. And when you know better, you do better. Right. And so my goal is to give you more information so you know better, and then you do better. And attachment theory helps me do that. So to do a down and dirty on attachment theory, you have secure attachment, and that means a consistent and reliable emotional source from a caretaker. And it's key. The word there that is so key is emotional consistency and reliability. We have focused in the past on providing clothes, food, and shelter. And then we've used that to say, what you so mad for? I put clothes on
this is
your
part
back.
of your speech too. I like this one. Yeah.
That's
keep going.
And so I'm sitting here going like, that is not what allows us to feel felt. It's not
that's not love
us to connect.
For us.
It's not. And I know that that's what got the mark, years ago in terms of masculine toxicity and all that stuff, but it's not working. All right.
I'm the parent. I provide for you. You should be grateful.
Correct.
People in Africa have it worse than us. That just loads you some more social justice, racism. But if you want to get into that, we'll part two. But so we're just being programmed to to take and it goes down in generations. I see it in Pacifica all the time, and on the internet, unfortunately.
That's it. And so what ends up happening is, because people, for whatever reason, it can be depression, it can be because of, like in Silicon Valley, all those parents that travel that aren't physically there
to build the emotional attachment they could be providing. But
that's right. So all these things end up happening to make an anxious attachment, where kids start feeling like, what do I have to do to be good enough for you? Right. And so
they're going for more emotional.
Correct. And so
we don't know that we're not. The food and the shelter. It's like, that just came with the package. Like
that's it. I would rather be starving and know that you're proud of me.
Oh my God. I wish my dad was sitting right. Well, I don't want to start, but he's got to be on episode 1 of Who Hurt You, because he didn't hurt me, but all these things are trying. I think his parents, messed him up a little. He's got the middle child in the 70s, and just he got the hand-me-downs, and then the new his younger brother got all the new stuff, and they just picked on him, or that's how he says it though. And I know there's 3 sides to every story. We'll talk about that too. But, okay, so you did share a little bit. You were talking about with your daughter about this attachment theory, and what was the thing you were talking about? This was during your speech, if I remind you. like you were talking to your daughter about like, you cook, you clean, you bring home, and then, but she just wants to hear you're proud of her. So like,
that's it. And that's all all she wants to know is, am I the daughter you wanted? Right?
oh my God, that's brutal. Did she ever tell you that? Or did you guys like give coloring books? It's like, circle this if you want to express this to mommy.
Well, you want to know, it's an interesting way that I learned that from her, because I was doing the parent teacher night, the back to school night, and I was
And
like,
half the parents wanted to talk to you and the other half didn't.
that's right. And I'm like, I'm gonna leave a cool note in her little desk there and everything. And I went, like, you're the coolest kid. I love you, and you're amazing. And I just want you to know that I love you no matter what, And so the next day when I picked her up from school, I said, like, hey, did you like see that I left a note in your thing? She said, yes, I did. And I said, did you read it? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, what did you think? And she said that my favorite part was the no matter what.
I know. That's all we want to hear. It's the unconditional love, but for some reason people think that's weakness, but
that's it. It's not. It's really not. And the thing is, we know it's unconditional when you don't say, because you're in a bad mood, stop crying, right? Like when we say,
I'm guilty of that.
Yeah. It's the whole thing.
I don't have a kid. I have a girlfriand, but, but it's the same thing. I'm like, why did I say that? It just makes it worse.
That's it. And the thing
now
is,
I want to cry. It looks fun and relieving.
That's it. But it's like, we don't need people to fix it. It turns out we just need somebody to sit with us.
The fixing. I'm an instant fixer because I don't want to feel the emotions, Dr. O.
Yes. That's it. That's it. And it's because when somebody else's vulnerability reminds us of our own vulnerability, and it's always our vulnerability when we are 3, when we are 4 years old, and we're sitting there helpless. And, the thing is that what I do for people is I say, please don't think about this as the current age you are. I really need you to think of this when you were 3 or 4 years old.
What you would need when you were 3 or 4 or whatever.
That's exactly right. Because what happens is there's such a differential in height and power that is what we are feeling, the heaviness.
And you just think you shouldn't be feeling this. You should be, and then, I'll go hide myself in my to-do list and I'll just work harder and just grind. But what I really need to do is take some CBD and rest. And cuddle with my girlfriend and my cat.
That's it. That's it.
Just be with her.
Yes. And, it's people are like, I don't know what to say. And it's like, literally just describe what you're feeling.
That's hard for people too, though, right?
Yes. But even if you are stuck and you say to somebody, I am really overwhelmed right now and I don't know what to say. And I so badly want to say something that makes you feel better. Right? That's it. That's it.
So was that advice for someone who, say for me, like I'm sitting with someone who's sad or unhappy and I don't have the right words, and it's like, let me know if you need anything. Obviously they can't, but it's like a good question to be like, how are you feeling right now? And that will also help them feel better. So are you giving me the advice to ask them, or are you saying that you give that advice to the folks who are in crying or in that mood?
I feel like when we're not connected to our own emotions and somebody else's sadness, anger, what have you, is overwhelming us, our bodies start to react in a way that we feel powerless, right?
When someone else is going through something, and
correct.
No, 100%. That's how I feel, and that's when I feel like like I'm about to turn into the Incredible Hulk, because I just like want to fix it, and I feel guilt and shame, but then like I'm hurting this other person, or I see this. All the guys I talk to who pretend their relationships are perfect, and I'm like, well, am I the only one that's going through this? Like, oh no,
no.
It's like we rotate. Yeah.
Yes. And more than anything, if there were any words that I could give somebody to say, is that it's just about taking a breath and just saying, yes, I just need you to take a breath and say, I feel so helpless, and that makes me want to fix it instead of sit here with you.
Yeah, it's just sitting here, because it just feels like, and so just breathe and sit there and just let it marinate, as I like to say.
That's it.
And that's good. Another kind of food analogy.
Yes.
Okay, so you talk about going back to the 3 and the 4 years old. I don't know if I read one of your Facebook quotes, but it might have been talking about like wounded child, and I know we talked a little bit about trauma, and I watched like a freaking marathon intervention on Vice TV. And it was all trauma. It was either like someone didn't get accepted when they were younger, when they wanted to come out.
Yeah.
Another person got, I think, like molested. Another person got, drugs, or dad left and never came back,
Yeah.
or dad came back into the picture. And it's all these traumas. So does it really go back to like 4 or 5-year-old Robby, like when I got hurt and dad didn't pick me up, like, and now I'm just out here flailing in the world, still working with him at the restaurant, wanting him to pick me up and console me and love me unconditionally, even though he says it, I want to feel it. Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's it. And the thing is, with the feeling of it is not just the, okay, sure, I do that, right? It really has to do with about feeling and owning that I wasn't there for you're right. You're not crazy. You did feel me resisting doing that. Does that make sense?
Like his
really,
for example, his parenting style or whatever, like, because I feel like he wanted to be the parent that he didn't or you get what I'm saying, where like parents want to be the opposite. So I feel like at a certain age, like I feel like, hi dad, I'm just gonna make you go, just pull back the curtain a little bit, but that's how we roll in Pacifica for the Bancroft family. But yeah, it's like, just I've learned so much even during the pandemic, because we were spending a lot of time together and we were coming up a lot of against a lot of things, and like money and family and just I moved out, so there was some empty nest things going on there, and the only time we saw each other was when something was on fire. So then and then depending on how my mental health was doing, I have sleep apnea and a couple other things going on, so I'd have to be like, hey, I'm you may see me, but but he doesn't know what that means, so we'll just keep talking, and then it takes a turn for the worse, and now we have like code words to like pause and stuff, and I learned that from Kaiser and Blizzard. But I learned a lot about, and then the more stories he shares about his childhood, it's like, oh, now I know why you did that. So trying to be more curious as to why he was reacting when it's like, he's my dad, he should. And as soon as I caught myself doing, he's my dad, he should. it was like he would do the opposite. So
and
but then I felt like I had like a teenage father, and then he probably felt like he had like overbearing, micromanaging son. So like but unpack that for me a little bit.
Yeah, and that's our fantasy about what our parents are supposed to be. They're humans. They're flawed humans. And the more we can look at them as just flawed humans rather than our parents, we take them off their godlike pedestal, so that
he used to always tell me, don't put me on a pedestal. Now I know why. Because I was like, you're super dad. Like any problem I had with my teachers or anything, he'd be like, blah, blah, blah. And then we'd go through like all 25 scenarios. So then I would be prepared when I got to class. But now I realize like he might have had anxiety back then, or like we don't need to have 25 scenarios figured out, because I trust my gut, and now we're to the point where we know we can just show up. And our biggest thing now is like walking through the fire, like just get through it and get through those uncomfortable things. So it's pretty wild. So is there anything else in that realm that you want to touch on? Is there any, or we got about like 9 minutes? I told you it was going to fly by, but talk to me more.
Yes. I would say that the last thing that I want to say with that is that we think of trauma in terms of like sexual assault, neglect, physical abuse. But, there's a still study that was done by a Dr. Tronick. And what he did was he took an 18-month-old, I think it's somewhere between 12 and 18 months old, had the mom interact with the kid, right? And of course, the kid was like, yeah, mom, yeah. And then in the earpiece said to mom, I want you to hold your face still, almost like a frozen screen, right?
Yeah, don't jinx us. Okay, we gotta do this to make sure you're going. Okay?
I'm not gonna do it, but what they did was they asked the mom to do that with the infant.
And just to like cut off the emotion, basically.
Exactly. And that is all.
That would have freaked me out. That's freaking me out just talking about it.
Exactly. And so when I say that you experience trauma, the collective you, I'm talking about little moments of that repeatedly happening.
And that's everyone's parent.
Our heart. Exactly. Yeah. That's what's breaking our heart. And then there's no repair. So it's not these big things. It's these really tiny little things. And that's the thing that instills the doubt. And in order to survive, because I've been known to tell families, right? If we at 2 years old could take care of ourselves, we have enough information at 2 to know that our parents are not okay. We would pack our stuff and leave. Okay. But we don't, because we can't take care of ourselves. So what we do is we say, I'm going to have to figure this out. And to do that, I'm going to have to justify their behavior. And I'm going to justify their behavior by saying, this is what I deserve.
Yeah, I either deserve it or this is, oh my God, it's you're so spot on. So how do we get this out to more people? Like the people are so angry, and you could just see like it's on their nose.
Yeah.
And then when you're like, oh, like, you know, I joke around who hurt you, but like there's a trauma. And then they probably go like, no, I was fine. I had a good childhood and I turned out fine. And it's like,
Which
turned
is
out fine. Don't you want to turn out like amazing? Like, and then you're not fine. Like you and your wife are fighting, or like the things you post, like you are posting hate online and you think it's fun to troll people rather than make their day. Like you're not fine. So, but they gotta want. Is it like an alcoholic? They want to get better. Is it one of those like you can't
have to want to, because it is so hard to be vulnerable to do this stuff. You've got to want it. This is hard work. And I always say you should never, ever let anybody make you believe that this makes you weak. And you know that because if this were easy, everybody would do it.
We're going to clip that. There's so many clips we're going to clip from this. I'm just going to load up the Instagram with all of it. It's so true, though. Are you seeing that a lot more in the world now, just like after the election and everything with like George Floyd and then whatever is in the headlines the next time? Like, how much of a toll is this taking on our youth, and then even some of the adults, you know, that you're working with, like returning back to school, returning back to work? Like, is it all tied in? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, and you want to know what's crazy is the hardest part about the kids going back to physical, in real life IRL school.
Yeah, I think the internet's real life more.
Yeah,
but we'll talk about that later. Yeah, go ahead.
But the hardest part is that they forgot who they pretended to be with the people,
because it wasn't real life to begin with. It's what we show online. That's the real us. Like, this is the real Robby B. This is real Robby.
Show up as. That's it. They're like,
it's just our.
That's it.
And some don't want to go back. And have you heard this? I've heard Mary actually talked to me about this earlier. Mary Beer at lunch. She was talking about how some of her students excelled more outside of the classroom, and some can't wait to get back. And then I read that online that some CEOs are forcing people to come back, but their numbers are up. So it's like, why don't we ask the staff what they're doing? So is it like these weird control things? And
correct.
So that is happening. You're seeing that
because we are so adverse to change that when change happens accidentally, we don't grab onto it so we can keep changing.
Yeah, like how the world got forced to, you know, COVID-5. I probably wouldn't even be doing this podcast if it wasn't for COVID. Like, there's so much that happened behind the scenes at the restaurant, but you know, now that you know better, you got to want to do better, like you said earlier. How do people? Is it your website that people get a hold of you the most, or like if people want to professionally get involved with you?
So yes, you can definitely reach me through either my Facebook page, the Teen Doc, Instagram, the Teen Doc, or you can go to theteendoc.com and send.
Yeah, let's put her URL up real quick, Martin, if you're there. Cool. So that's your website, and then. Now, if someone was at Kaiser, are you starting to are you getting so popular? People are like, no, we want the Teen Doc, or or is it just like a lottery that you get to just get to see if you end up with you or not?
I love teens, so if you're a teen and you have Kaiser, you can come see me there. But
you could request. Okay, cool.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, sweet. We still got a couple more minutes, but I just wanted to take that little breather like you taught me and just make sure I elevated your brand and everything that you're representing.
That's so nice.
Half the stuff that I thought I was going to talk to you about, I don't even know if we picked up on it, but I really like what you've been posting on your Facebook. So you have stuff on anxiety, vulnerability.
Yeah.
Let's see what it is. Lacking self-compassion, overthinking. Like, how do you kind of come up with these? And then there are certain ones that you think more people should know about than others, or what are you seeing?
What I'm always trying to hit on is the energy of what I feel is hurting people, right? So I'm really trying to step inside of people and say the thing that they can't say to themselves. And so that just depends on who I'm talking to. Sometimes it comes from me seeing a scene on a TV show and going, that's not what they should have written. This is what should have written, because this is the core emotion that's in that.
And so you'll add your commentary and post it on your socials.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
So
I think
really about I want to say the uncomfortable so that somebody feels they have the permission to be safe with me being uncomfortable.
Yeah. And it's hard to put things into words, like, you know, we've been talking about this whole time, but you know, I'm constantly saving. I constantly like and share your stuff, and then I'm saving it, and then. And you're not posting, I know, because you're working obviously, but like the amount of engagement that you'd probably get on these quotes on Instagram would probably be higher. I even screenshotted it and tagged it as if you did it, because it's just I can't believe you're not more popular or that's blowing up even
Yeah.
more. But I know that's like a third. It's not even secondary to doctors. Like
Yeah,
the fact that you have to pause to like post on
yes.
social media. So yeah, it's like we should figure something out. That's what kind of like a podcast does, you know. But yeah, I think if you posted more, like even if you just screenshotted what you put on your Facebook and then put it as a post, like I think it would blow up and people would start sharing. But I know you probably got seconds to like to think about that stuff. And then it's not like Kaiser's like wants you to be doing this anyway.
No. Yeah, I teeter on even the person who helps me with my website. I'm like, no, don't put more stuff out because I don't have time to do anything else. So
yeah, that's the hard part.
It's more because I'm filled to capacity. But yeah, but I do want to have
being
a
on
presence.
podcasts. Yeah. No, whatever you're doing, it's good.
I definitely want the energy out there.
Yeah, no, and it's like Facebook's kind of dying, you know, for teens. So that's why I just like Instagram. And you would kill it on TikTok. Did you even have you even considered that, or is your daughter like, no, you're not allowed to be on TikTok? Or, but isn't there like rule? Like, is it OSHA or is it like, is it not OSHA? Or who's the people that check you guys and make sure you're not like crossing any boundaries? Like, you just can't talk. Like, you can't just say, oh, Robby and his mom talked about this. Like, but you can talk in general.
Yeah, but I don't talk about patients. I give a generic sometimes, right?
Yeah,
so,
you'll say like this came up, but it's not like I know who you're talking about. But
correct. I don't know how anybody would know who I'm talking about, but like it's like definitely I give the energy and the vibe of, you know, conversations or things that I've thought of or something like that. But my mission has always been to say the hard thing. I've always wanted to be able to have hard conversations with people and have them feel like that was not painful. And so
it almost feels better after, but why do we avoid it so much? What's
we think it's going to be painful, and I'm gonna use something that Gabor Mate said, who I really love, but he said that, you know, we are so afraid of discussing these things because when they happen to us, we were 1 and 2 years old and we were powerless and helpless and we were alone. And that's really what I'm tapping into. I know that feeling. And so that's the feeling that I'm trying to get people to come in touch with, even if all they're doing is while they read what I posted, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we don't want to feel that way. So we avoid, but then it makes things worse.
No.
Final advice.
Yes.
15
really
seconds for the people. What do you want to tell them? Final words of wisdom. And keep it kind of short. What?
Yes. No problem. I am going to plead with you to reach out to talk about the conversation, because even if you just meet once, you will feel better. There are a few things I can guarantee, but you will feel better after you talk to me. Yeah.
Okay. So if you guys want to talk to Dr. O, hit her up. I'm going to flash my website real quick, and I'm going to flash PCT. This was a freaking pleasure. I'm so glad we didn't have to like reschedule or hop on Zoom. One word to describe how you're feeling now.
Oh my God. The energy is like, woo, like that.
Do you say that to everyone or just me?
I'm saying that one specifically to you because otherwise sometimes I would just crip walk right out of the room.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. O.